Hello and welcome. You're watching Eye on Africa and I'm Clarisse Fortuné. Our top stories. President Kagame seeks more votes to win a fourth term as president. Our team met some of his supporters at one of his last rallies. South Africa's city Cape Town is bracing for more high winds and drenching rain after a storm displaced hundreds of people. And you will find it on every good tables in Ivory Coast. To eat with grilled chicken or fish, atcheke has now its own label. The traditional dish made from cassava has now to be 100% made in Ivory Coast to deserve its name. But now to Rwanda's elections. President Paul Kagame is seeking a fourth term after 24 years in power. After launching a major national tour 3 weeks ago, visiting more than 30 cities and villages, he gathered this Friday tens of thousands of supporters on the hills of capital's Kigali. Olivia Bizot was on the ground and spoke to some of Kagame's fans.
There's little doubt over the outcome of these elections. Paul Kagame has been in power for the last 24 years. In 2017, he won almost 99% of the vote. And observers say a similar result is expected this year. Over the past 3 weeks, Kagame has been campaigning in about 30 towns and villages across the country. Millions of people have attended these rallies. And at these events, Kagame has talked about how his party, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, has improved the living standards of millions of people thanks to a booming economy. As you can see behind me, the mood at these rallies is very festive as Kagame supporters celebrate their leader.
We can testify that he's a very pragmatic person. He can take things from one point to another level. So I think there's that trust. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as everybody seeing here is concerned, there's no point of changing right now.
Rwanda's president is facing two challenges in this year's election. The two opponents were also the only candidates allowed to run in the last polls in 2017. Frank Habineza from the Democratic Green Party is often described as the only notable opposition candidate. He received less than 1% of the vote in 2017 and he's hoping to do better this year. Throughout his campaign, he's highlighted issues of individual freedoms, food security and unemployment, which is still high in the country, especially among the youth. Rwandans will be heading to the polls on Monday, the 15th of July, and provisional results are expected on July the 20th.
And scores injured in central Nigeria when a school collapsed. The pupils were in the middle of taking their exams at the Saint Academy School. Rescue workers tried to reach the victims with heavy machinery working on a caved-in concrete building and heaps of debris. It's not clear what caused the collapse, but residents said it came after 3 days of heavy rains in Plateau. Let's listen to one of the witnesses.
There were a lot of students trapped inside. Some have been rescued and taken to the hospital, and many more are still there. And that's why you can see the excavators and everything working.
As Cape Town braces for more wind and rain, the South African city is still reeling from the impact of an unprecedented level 8 storm, level 8 on a Beaufort scale that goes up to 12. In addition of heavy rains and strong winds, the stormy weather caused extensive damages to homes and displaced thousands of residents. Laurent Bersecher has more.
Assessing the damage, residents of this Cape Town neighborhood were inspecting what remained of their homes after gale-force winds tore through the South African city.
That wind was very strong, but I'm telling you, I never saw something like that in my life. It's very, very strong. And they just take the roof and everything.
Over the past week, Cape Town has been battered by an intense level 8 storm, which brought days of strong winds, heavy rains, and plunging temperatures. Over 30,000 dwellings have been affected, especially in townships, where many informal settlements were flooded by rising waters. On Friday, local authorities were distributing essential goods to affected communities, while trying to relocate displaced families.
We have taken a decision to start with category C, informal settlements. These are informal settlements that are in danger zone. There are more than 800 of them. So we've got to find land to relocate them.
Cape Town is bracing for more stormy weather with waves up to 5 meters high and winds nearing 60 kilometers an hour expected over the weekend.
And meanwhile, since last summer, the El Niño weather phenomenon has wreaked havoc on agricultural production, especially in Zimbabwe, where half the population is now in need of food aid. It's prompted the government to act quickly to build their climate resilience. Sophie Lamotte.
A bed of sand and a patch of mud is all that remains in the Kapotesa Dam. It once provided the water vital for crops and livestock in this remote part of Zimbabwe.
This year, there was very little rain and the river is dry. We were not able to work in the garden.
The prolonged drought linked to the El Niño phenomenon and climate change has cut cereal production by more than 75% and left at least 7.6 million people in need of humanitarian aid. That's almost half of the population. Children under the age of 5, pregnant women, and new mothers are most affected.
We've recorded an increase in terms of cases of malnutrition over the last 3 months. They've increased by around 20% in the district.
In May, President Emerson Mnangagwa declared a state of disaster. He said Zimbabwe needed at least $2 billion to respond to the drought. Early July, they received an insurance payout of over $16 million from the African Risk Capacity Group, designed to help African Union member states plan, prepare, and better respond to extreme weather events.
The payout is complemented by payouts to our ARC replica partners amounting to $6.1 million to the WFP and $8.9 million to START Network. Zimbabwe will therefore receive a total of $31.8 million from this payout.
International organizations are also trying to raise money for Zimbabwe. The UN launched a $430 million donation campaign in early June. So far, they say they haven't received any external contributions.
And we're now a few weeks away before the Olympics. The lucky ones with tickets for athletics might discover Mary Mora. She's part of an emerging crop of Kenyan short-distance runners taking the discipline by storm. The 24-year-old rising star is hoping to shine at the Paris Games.
A leap of joy as she crosses the finishing line. That's Mary Mora's signature move and the reason behind her nickname, the Dancing Queen of Athletics. Top contender in the 800 and 400 meter events, the Kenyan athlete started racing barefoot in her schoolyard in Kisii, Western Kenya.
I started running when I was in primary school, but there was nobody who can guide me how to compete maybe in major events. But when I reached in high school, that's where I started running because I found somebody mwenye alikuwa anaelewa what is sports.
The 24-year-old's passion for racing is rooted in a difficult family history. Orphaned when she was a toddler, she later found out her mother was herself a runner.
In our family, we went through a lot because our parents, I think, passed on when I was 2 years old. I heard in the village, people were saying my mother was running, but there was no support. So when I heard people saying that, I was like, I want to learn like my mom.
The Kenyan runner barely made it to the Tokyo Olympics, and today her opponents see her as a force to be reckoned with on the track, especially after last year's World Championship in Budapest. She dreamed of a podium. She ended up scoring gold. She hopes to repeat that performance in this summer's Olympics in Paris and bring even more medals home for the best scoring African nation in the Olympic Games.
I can say we are targeting to get a good result this season, and my big target is to finish in the podium. And I don't know which medal I'm going to get.
Early July, President William Ruto saw Kenya's 83 athletes, including Mary Mora, off to Paris for the biggest sporting event of the year.
Acheke, Ivory Coast's traditional dish made from cassava, has received a new award from the African Intellectual Property Organization, a popular meal across West Africa. But this new label means it can only bear the name Acheke if made in Ivory Coast. It's now become a symbol of the country's food culture. Mark Lara and Damien Coffey report in Abidjan.
In one spirit, these women transform cassava into a unique semolina, Acheke, a dish at the heart of Ivorian hospitality. Acheke is now protected by a label issued by the African Intellectual Property Organization.
Acheke with breast fish back home in Ivory Coast. We eat that almost all the time, and it's very good.
Desiree Bani is working to promote acheke so it meets an ever-increasing demand. He specializes in drying the food to last longer and produces more than 100 tons every month. More than half of this is exported and the rest supplied to the country's supermarkets.
These are other outlets that are open to us, and beyond these outlets, there must be real promotion and valorization of our atike. We have moved from the traditional stage to the semi-mechanized stage. Today, with this momentum, we must be able to move towards complete industrialization of our atike line.
The government is now taking advantage of this new feat to attract more food tourists into the country.
Some key destinations in the world are known for their food. And believe me, the labeling of atike reinforces our mobilization so that Ivory Coast can benefit from this food tourism.
The next step is for the government to register acheke as a UNESCO cultural heritage. From its ancestral origins to supermarket shelves, acheke continues to tell the history and culture of this country.
Acheke with grilled chicken and some plantains, my favorites. Well, thank you for watching Eye on Africa. Keep watching France 24. More news to come.